Happy Thursday, y'all. It is morning shoot around with the Athletic NBA Daily NBA Draft First Round Edition. I am sliding over to the host chair to allow these guys to cook. I got Andrew Schlecht, Baraheni, and Dave DuFour that's going to be able to give us their analysis of last night's NBA 2025 draft. First and foremost, we just love the draft here, don't we? Like, it's fun to watch people achieve
Yes.
their dreams.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
I
By
thought
the
it was
way,
so dope the amount of tears that happened last night.
it doesn't need to be 2 days, but I saw people saying, oh, this could have been an email. Certainly could have been an email. Okay, great. But so could your high school graduation and your college
Right.
graduation.
Yep.
Right? And it's not just about you. So yeah, like shout out to those guys. Like it was fun, man. I love watching these guys get that chance to walk across the stage, see their dreams fulfilled, only to then have their hopes and dreams crushed when they're out of the league like 5 years from now, right? Like we'll get
Hey,
to
they
that
can
later.
still they can still play some pro ball afterwards, you know.
That's right. Europe is
Yeah.
there, you know, you can
Yeah.
still, you know.
Listen,
There's
let
always the
people
G
have
League.
their suit, let them have their moment, let them have their tears. I'm all about it. And you also just reminded me of a really great Bill Burr joke in which he called the NFL draft the equivalent of going to a random high school graduation in your town
Yes.
and just standing in this crowd and just cheering them on. But yes, people were doing that. I loved the fact there were a few winners that were not players or teams last night. One of them is whoever it was sitting in the crowd right after Malika Andrews said that Adam Silver was approaching the podium, and you just hear, Dallas was rigged. I don't know how they timed that so perfectly, but shout out to you. You were the real first draft pick in this whole situation. All right, let's get into it. Of course, the first 30 are now officially with their teams. There was a little bit of movement. The first one, I think that kind of stood out to some folks, Ace Bailey came into the draft, Rutgers pick, flashy suit, made sure that everyone knew the red was there. The scarlet red was there with his suit, looked nice alongside his partner, Dylan Harper from Rutgers, that ended up at the San Antonio Spurs at the number 2 pick. But Ace Bailey went number 5 to the Utah Jazz. And if I don't know if you guys heard of the rumors around Ace Bailey, but he wasn't looking to go all the way to Utah. He was looking to stay on the East Coast. So I'm going to open it up to you guys. Andrew, you first. What are your thoughts on Ace Bailey to the Utah Jazz?
I think if we're just talking strictly basketball and not talking about preferences, I like it because he's somebody that needs to go to a team that has a relatively blank slate, has a little bit of shooting around him. I think that it's a good fit there. I also think that the coaching staff with the Jazz are going to be good for him. I think they're going to provide some good structure for him. So I like that. It is funny that Danny Ainge is just like, we don't care if you don't want to be here or not. Like, you're going to come to our
Tough
team.
luck, buddy. Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, Austin Ainge, right? Austin Ainge.
Both Ainges.
Both
Right.
Ainges
Both
are there.
Ainges. Right. Okay. Yeah, that's true.
So it's like, yeah, we don't care if you don't want to be here. This is the system that's in place for the NBA, and we get to choose where you work.
Yeah.
It's not the other way around. And so it's a big upside swing. This is the second big upside swing for a wing that they've taken in consecutive drafts, with Cody Williams being the other one. And with the guys that were left on the board, it's like, man, he better work out. Like, you better be pretty confident that this is the guy, because if you whiff on 2 big wings, 2 drafts back to back, and have, like, I don't know, S and I were talking about it. I don't really like many of the young guys that are on this team anyways.
Yeah.
And so if you find yourself in a situation where Ace doesn't work out, it's going to be really tough to build a team in Utah. So big upside swing. But I think if it's going to work anywhere, I think Utah is probably a good place for him.
A swing they should take, period.
Okay.
They have no talent outside of Lowry Markkanen. I mean, there's just nobody on that roster. I mean, they were a team that we kind of kicked around when there were murmurs that Giannis might be available. They were like, all right, maybe Danny Ainge is crazy enough to throw some picks and maybe some young players. But what young players, right? So this is the most talented young guy that they've got on the roster day one. He also still has value. Like, I heard Charlotte was interested in him. I mean, there's a lot of, they don't have to keep this guy. So it's a good value play at the position because of the talent, but it's also a good value play to have that player. Maybe it doesn't work out. Maybe he is a pain, although usually when guys get to the NBA, they don't actually do that, right? Usually guys go along to get along at a minimum because you're lucky to be there. And I think once you fall in like with a team, you know, people are people, and most of them aren't what we think they are. And so whatever his pre-draft process, he's now been drafted. He's a professional athlete. I think he's probably going to act like one. And if Utah keeps him, this guy gets to have the ball in his hand. He gets to do anything he wants. They're happy to be bad again.
Right. And he also has a situation in which he can patiently build on all the things that make him an upside pick, right? They talk about his shooting is a little inconsistent, maybe some of his playmaking. He's got to develop more of a feel for the game. Like, what better place to do that than under Will Hardy? While there's no pressure, no expectation to win something immediately, he can do that and figure out where he fits if he ends up in staying as a scoring wing for Utah. Any thoughts on Ace to the Jazz?
I think it's a big vote of confidence on Will Hardy because there have been a couple of guys that have gone to Utah where you're like, all right, I don't know how I see the vision with them, and he gets the most out of them. Now, we just talked a bunch about how they don't have a lot of prospects, but that's like a talent thing more than the actual player, being able to be as good as possible. I think Ace Bailey has such a high upside that if he's willing to be coached and is coachable, which is, again, like a pretty big hurdle to cross, given what we've seen with what Ace wants from his career to start in the NBA. I think it's a big, big vote of confidence for Will to be a guy who can get the most out of Ace Bailey. Is that going to happen? That's a big question.
Like a culture bet, almost.
It is a culture bet. Absolutely.
And I would say this, and it's a different one than like OKC would make, because OKC will bet on, hey, this great guy fits our culture. Let's get him in here. Whereas maybe Utah is hoping we don't know enough about him. Maybe we've heard some things, but we think we can sell him once he's here. And that's, hey, shout out to that. You got to do that if you're a market like Utah. You're not going to sign free agents. You're going to have to go through the draft and trades. And so part of that's going to be, hey, maybe you don't want to be here, but let us take the 4 years to sell you.
I also like they made a trade and drafted for Walter Clayton Jr.
I was just going to ask about that. Yep.
So I like him. He has a lot of juice to his game, plays really confidently. Again, he is another guard, so I'm curious to see how that all fits in with Keontae George and Isaiah Collier.
Well, I don't think that's an issue.
But I don't think
that's an issue.
Like,
no.
Take the guy you think is going to be a dude, because Utah doesn't have anybody. I also am like, why not trade Markkanen?
Yeah, I mean,
listen, like there's like
already though. Like what would be the? I guess my question would be this: what's the purpose of trading him? Because you're bad enough already.
Yeah,
you've just had the worst record in the league.
That is true. Yeah,
I don't think, because like a lot of times we need to trade guys to bottom out. Hey, guess what?
They don't have to trade him. Yeah,
we're at the bottom. We're at the bottom.
Right.
So like,
Right.
I think there's value in just having good players around these guys and guys that have. He's made an all-star team. He's a professional. He can kind of show these guys the way a little bit. I think there is a lot of value in that. And if you can lose games in the process, I think that's the way that you do it. And sometimes, I mean, the Thunder had to do this too, where Shea, how you feeling this morning? Man, that ankle looks pretty swollen, buddy. Like, let's have a seat. Same. Love to do that with Markkanen.
Oh, you did.
Oh my God. Well, they did it with
Lowry.
Markkanen.
Did you hurt your knee skiing? Oh, darn.
Yeah, but I think they should keep him. There are very few forwards that big that can shoot it like him.
Absolutely, but I think there's also the fact that they did test the market last year with Lauri Markkanen, and I don't know what they're getting back. That's going to be so transcendental. I can't say the word. That's just going to like change everything about Utah Jazz. That even if you got Ace Bailey and a Walter Clayton Jr. coming in, that's going to significantly change anything in the short term
Mhm.
other than let's still try to get a number 1 pick next year.
Call
So
the Pelicans
yeah,
to see what they're willing to give you. 'Cause
Oh my God.
on
Yeah,
that note,
2029 and 2030
note,
unprotected first round pick and 2023. Oh my God.
we gotta talk about it. Okay, so the funniest part about last night was that there was someone that could do something so funny, like so funny, and obviously that was Dallas. They could have blown everyone's minds and read a different name at the podium, but of course they choose Cooper Flagg. Very predictable. Who was not predictable? Oh, the New Orleans Pelicans. They continue to just surprise us every day. Of course, right before the draft, the announcement of Jordan Poole,
Mhm.
Sadiq Bey, and this year's number 13 pick, right? 20,
No, the 40th pick. Yeah, they traded
the 40th pick, excuse me, the
Yeah.
40th pick, second round pick. That's right. Comes over in exchange for CJ McCollum and Kelly Olynyk to Washington. And you know what, S? I know you know exactly what happened. I want you to break it down to the people.
Okay.
What the hell did the Pelicans do?
So look, the Pelicans had the 7th pick. They drafted Jeremiah Fears, really interesting guard. Very curious to see how him and Jordan Poole play together. That's part of this whole equation too. I like Fears though. I think
you like him at 7?
I think he's fine at 7.
Okay.
I know Sam Vecini was very, very low on Jeremiah Fears. He had him like 20th. So I think a lot of things have to pan out for him.
And remember, Sam gauges the league, right? This isn't just Sam's opinion on where a guy, he's the 20th best guy.
Everybody's opinion is.
He's
around
talking to front offices, right? So he's trying to actually do intel there.
I will say, I think, if we're doing comps and whatnot, some people have comped Jeremiah Fears to like a Jaden Ivey, very, very quick twitch guard who can get downhill, which is intriguing, but also not the greatest decision maker. And to me, that's sort of like, how does that and Jordan Poole work together at all? That being said, you take the talent play. He is like a very high upside guy. If he reaches that, cool. What they did that was very shocking was that before the draft, they were interested in Derek Queen. Troy Weaver, DMV guy, loves himself some Derek Queen. Okay. And I thought, even on the live feed thing we were doing, I thought they were going to draft Queen at 7, but they took Fears and they waited. And with the 13th overall pick, the Atlanta Hawks traded for 23 instead of 13. They moved down 10 spots. And instead, the Pelicans gave up a 2026 unprotected first round pick, which is most favorable between the New Orleans Pelicans and the Milwaukee Bucks. Guys,
such a great pick.
We'll see what happens with the Bucks and Giannis and all that type of stuff. That's not the big thing here. It's the Pelicans side of things that makes no sense. They gave up their own pick. And we just talked about how crazy the Western Conference is. Do you think a team with Jordan Poole, Trey Murphy, and 30 games of Zion Williamson is going to do anything in the West? Are we serious? Joe Dumars is off to a pretty bad start.
It's Pistons 2.0. It's Pistons 2.0. It's the exact same thing. It's the exact same thing.
I feel bad.
Troy Weaver too. It's a
Troy Weaver thing.
The same people doing the exact same thing in the same way.
Yeah. Great.
Oh, I think Andrews might be having some technical difficulties.
Sound like he is being
I think we're all on the same page of, the Pelicans. Don't get me wrong. I'm very always going to be very high on DeJounte Murray and him getting an opportunity to get back into the mix of this.
But he has that Achilles injury, and I don't know when
he's going to be out all year.
Yeah. He's going to be out, and so it's like, I'm trying to think a year later, right?
Let me ask.
What does
matter?
Let me ask.
This might be the number 1 overall pick next year,
right?
I know.
Let me ask a question here. Because if they don't trade that pick today, I'm saying, wow, do they trade Zion?
Right.
But they traded that pick. And now I look at the moves that they've made, and I am so lost as to what there's no short-term plan even, Zena.
There has to be an explanation here,
And this is actually leaning perfectly into my next question. Wait. I want to ask you guys about, across the picks that we saw in the first round, maybe the Pelicans are here. We'll put them in this little bucket over here. We'll put the Dallas Mavericks in this little bucket over here. Leave them out of the conversation because we just, we touched on that a little bit. But were there any picks that signified a strong shift or identified, oh, this is the strategy for this team that you weren't expecting, right? Like, was there a pick that made you go, oh, I thought they were going to rebuild. Looks like they're not. Or I thought that they wanted to blow this up. Like, looks like they're not. Like, was there a pick that gave you that indication?
This isn't like a pick, but mostly a couple of different things that they've done this offseason so far. And a couple people are mentioning it already in the comments, and that's the Atlanta Hawks.
Yes.
All three of us have actually been pretty big Hawks people, especially last season. That was kind of our fun team to watch. I think they have the possibility of taking a leap next year in the Eastern Conference, given the competition in the East, given the fact that Jalen Johnson didn't play that many games. They drafted Asa Newell, who I think can play rotation minutes for them almost immediately as a backup big. Good like rim runner, good guy who can kind of like crash the offensive glass, all that type of stuff. Energy big, that
very Clint Capella.
Very Clint Capella-y, yeah,
very
absolutely.
Clint Capella-y, yep.
They obviously traded for Kristaps Porzingis, and now, like with their playoff group, which I think is a playoff group, like they actually have the talent to be a good playoff team next year. They also have a potential lottery pick next year that they can dangle, which means they can only get better. That is a very valuable pick to trade. And so let's say, in January, the Hawks are looking at themselves and they're a top 3 or 4 seed in the East, and they want to really go for it. They have that pick that they can dangle and say, hey, we think New Orleans is going to tank. Giannis, do you want?
They're not even going to have to tank. New Orleans is just going to be straight up bad.
They're just
like this bad. Is the thing is like they are going to be trying now to be good, but they are bad. Like this was an all-in move basically for what they have, saying we want to win now with a team that DeJounte Murray is out.
Yeah, Dyson Daniels won MIP.
Season. Like what are we doing? This is I don't even know what it is. Of all the conspiracies about Dallas and why they traded Luka, no one's got a conspiracy about New Orleans just straight up coming in and shooting their franchise in the face. Like it is an absolute.
Still no coach.
It's the worst.
Still no coach.
I think they still have Willie Green.
They kept Willie Green. Yeah, that's another thing that happened, right?
They
but it's confusing, right? The entire thing has been confusing. And I am so lost as to, this is the worst trade in 10 years, maybe. That's outside of the Luka trade. I mean, it's
basically outside of the Luka trade. It's the only,
because you are bad. Like that Bucks pick was such, because if the Bucks were looking to move Giannis, they were going to be able to get something out of that pick that was bigger than what they got. I mean, to move up to the number 13 pick, to get a guy who, like, let's be honest, like, is he going to be changing anything for anyone? Probably not. You can't play him with your best player. He can't play next to Zion. You can't do that. So what are we doing here? Unless, again, the plan is to trade Zion. But if you're trading Zion, why do you get rid of your pick? It's insane. What I could like not believe.
People are running that organization differently because no.
It seems like these two people are running it exactly the same way they did it in Detroit. And how long did Detroit go without having any meaningful basketball being played? The Pelicans are on the path to the same thing in a market that doesn't really care about the team, right? Like, I mean, this is honestly, the league should step in. Because this is just absolutely.
No, they really should. They honestly should.
Well, it feels like they did with Joe Dumars, right? Like it feels like they were like, "Hey, take this guy." But this is so bad.
No,
so bad.
It's a gift. This is a gift.
Dumb teams are back.
It
Phoenix,
has been a while.
New Orleans.
There's been a team that we can all hop on our high horses and we can look down on them and say, I can't believe you guys are this stupid. I'm sitting here in my office in Oklahoma City. Don't have an NBA job. I'm sitting here talking into a microphone. I can say, you know what? Wouldn't have done that. It's a gift to us all. Okay, I like it. I would love to give me at least one team like this. If we can get 2 or 3 teams like this,
we got the Suns.
We've got 2. Charlotte's tightening up. They're getting better.
Yeah, Charlotte's
Okay.
figuring it out. I like what Washington's doing.
Charlotte's out. Now we got to usher in another team.
Yeah.
I had a team that, I mean, I think New Orleans raised the most questions of all the teams last night.
Yes.
A team that had me raising questions was the Trailblazers. What? I'm like,
let me
Hansen? How much size do you need?
Can I give you guys
How
a
much
Hansen
size
Yang
do you
story?
need?
You have a Hansen Yang story?
Okay.
Yeah, that's got to
because he played for the Chinese national team.
Right.
Yes.
So I watched a lot of Chinese national team tape in the run up to the World Cup because they play a lot of friendlies. So I actually saw this guy, and the Chinese Jokic stuff is funny.
No, lean into it.
Well, no, he does have feel, but this guy is not the athlete that Jokic is. Like Jokic is actually a really good athlete. Also built completely differently. Jokic is one of the strongest dudes in the NBA. I don't know if Hansen Yang has the frame to be strong enough to play with some of these guys in the NBA. But it is a super interesting pick. I just do not understand why that pick. Feels like he was going to be there today, for the second round.
Right.
I don't know unless they know something we don't. And this guy actually is way better than I saw. He can move okay. He sees the floor really well, and he can shoot it. But look, they have Donovan Clingan. So this is clearly
though.
I will
he
say
can shoot it.
Can he do it well enough
international
to spread the
space.
Floor? Okay.
It's different when you're playing against NBA guys. It's one thing when I'm watching you play against like the Egyptian national team. And they've got, one wing who's like 6'4". You're going to be out playing against NBA guys, and they're going to guard you with a guy who's 6'9", 6'10".
Right.
And he's
that
going
can
to
get out
be in
to your shot.
Right.
Yeah,
he's got 7.5 foot arms, like that is not an open shot. So it is going to be totally different. The game moves so much faster. It's above the rim league. And again, like, I just don't know physically if this guy's going to do it, but he is interesting. Like
he is interesting.
He knows how to play.
I'm more so curious about like what they're gonna do with their front court with
that's
Donovan
my
Clingan,
point.
DeAndre,
they have
Rob
two
Williams.
bigs.
Well, Ayton has got to get moved. I mean, basically, right? Yeah. But who wants DeAndre Ayton?
Who wants him? Yeah, I don't know. I'm not necessarily sure.
Question.
It's also contract year, DeAndre Ayton. So he's going to be awesome. He's going to be great this year because.
What about like the Kings? Like DeAndre Ayton could go play for the Kings. Why not?
Sure. By the way, Sam Amick yesterday dropped a lot about the Kings and what they might do. They're looking at potentially moving Levine. They're potentially moving Monk.
Well, I heard DeMar DeRozan might be a backup for Miami.
Yeah.
If they struck out on everybody. So I think they got some moves to make. Get DeAndre Ayton in there. Him and Sabonis, that would be an interesting, throwback two big games.
Can I?
Well, I mean, at least Domantas Sabonis would actually be able to play outside instead of having to fake like he likes to be inside, right? Like,
can I?
I think it'd be the other way. Ayton would stand
like
outside,
shocked by
for sure. What's that?
Okay, so I'm sure you guys were going to bring this up at some point. The Brooklyn Nets had 5 first-round picks.
That was going to be my next question.
Oh, okay. All right. Let's cook then.
No. Let's cook. Let's go.
5 first-round picks, and when I tell you guys, when Yegor Demon was selected 8th overall, there's actually a reaction video of us reacting to it. We were stunned, absolutely stunned that Yegor Demon was there because I don't see it. This guy gets physically outmatched pretty consistently at the college level. I know he's 6'9", but he does not shoot. He is pretty bad at getting to the rim and creating his own shot. They've basically drafted a guy who is a more talented passer, I guess, than what Ben Simmons was, but cannot score whatsoever.
Right.
On top of that,
or defend like
Ben Simmons. And then on top of that, they go and
he couldn't score.
They got like 3 guards, 3-point guards, basically.
They drafted 4 guards who, basically 3 guards who cannot shoot the ball.
Correct.
In Ben Serif, Nolan Traore. I like Traore though. We'll see what happens. But generally, I'm just so shocked. And the thought process to me is like, you have 5 first-round picks. At least diversify. They have Drake Powell, who's a big. Danny Wolf is sort of a big, but like is a guard. But the rest of them, I don't understand the thought process of drafting 3 guys who play exactly the same way. It's so confusing to me why Brooklyn. That was like such a missed opportunity.
I think we have a third dumb team, by the way.
There you go.
Because like
Maybe.
I'm over this Sean Marks thing, man. I'm over this. I'm over pretending like this guy is good at being an NBA GM. Like, oh great, you traded for some guys.
Yeah.
That wanted to play there and knew that they could get the keys to the franchise.
Sam Presti is who people think Sean Marks. You know what I mean? What's the
that's how
around?
people. I mean, that's how people
Yeah.
used to act about Sean Marks. I think people have caught up, but I mean, it just doesn't make any sense. And also, they took all 5 of these picks.
Yeah,
they definitely tried to trade them, and then got
they
got
had no market, which is amazing, right? Look at what Atlanta did.
yeah.
You know, what could they have gotten from New Orleans for number 8?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe Zion. I mean, who knows? I don't understand it. I'm lost on this. Making a reach at 8 is fine for me, but it's got to be like there's got to be a physical upside too.
Mm-hmm.
Like you can't have a guy who's not physically able to play. And I don't think this guy is. He's
big.
So skinny. He's
very
tall,
skinny,
but he's so skinny. And this is not like Chet. This is not like some high motor defender who has a track record of playing up, right? Like because Chet is skinny, but Chet plays bigger than he is. Like he's a tough dude, and this guy doesn't have that.
I don't see the vision at all with him. Like I really don't. That's if he was at 20, makes sense to me. At 8, shocking. Truthfully,
wow.
Yeah.
I have a question for you, S. I'm kind of shifting us a little bit, but also curious what your thoughts are on Colin.
I'm all in, man.
And I'm particularly asking this because we know how amazing he is on defense. We know he can like switch 1 through 5, basically. He can play an undersized forward, right?
Yes,
But he doesn't shoot well. And I'm looking at him beside Scotty Barnes, and I'm like, clog. Yeah. It's gonna be a little clogged. So how does it fit? How does Colin, and I always like mess up his name.
Murray Bowles.
Murray Bowles.
Colin
Murray Bowles.
Murray Bowles.
CMB.
Colin Murray Bowles.
CMB.
I always say Boyles Murray, but yes. CMB.
We're already doing YMCMB jokes
Boyles?
in Toronto.
Oh, I like it. How does he fit within this Toronto?
The Raptors have a type.
Yeah, they do.
They do.
They absolutely have a type. Yes.
But I like the fact that their type starts with defense, right? They've got all these guys with heart and effort and grit as a minimum.
Zena, what kind of league is it? What kind of league is it?
Let's get back to what S had to say.
It's a make or miss league.
Okay, I will tell you guys this. So a lot of people are pointing out the shooting, which is valid. I'll go into it like this. The offensive side of the ball, from what I've seen and what I've looked at over the last 24 hours, is wildly underrated. His driving and finishing game is better than what Scotty Barnes was as a rookie. His finishing ability in general, the soft touch and the strength, the physicality, the drives, all of that is better than what Scotty Barnes was when he first came into the league. I think I talked to a scout last night, and the first thing he said to me is, "You guys got your franchise player," which is surprising. He's very high on Colin Murray Boyles. I don't think I'm there yet, but that's the promise of what this guy can do. Obviously, the defensive side of the ball is what he hangs his hat on. I think year 1, that's how he earns his minutes. But the offensive side and what they like to use their big man, the passing, the driving ability, I think all of that pairs really well with Brandon Ingram and eventually Scotty Barnes. And honestly, I think the shooting is definitely something that has to come along, 100%, no question. But the dude shot like 55% on mid-range pull-ups. So I think there's an eventual growth there for him to like at least hit catch and shoot shots consistently. I think I'm all in on Colin Murray.
How are his free throws?
70%, not the greatest.
So
but
fine. Yeah. I don't know. Again, I think the Raptors are doing Raptor stuff here. And once again, how has that worked for them in the past? I just don't think it's been great. Trying to fit another guy who's like Scotty Barnes next to Scotty Barnes and Brandon Ingram. That's going to be tricky. Like you have, where's your space at all? Right.
Yeah.
Now, that being said, if he was the top of your draft board and he's there, you take him, because you take the guy who has the most talent, period. You don't worry about the fit at this point, because Scotty Barnes might not be on this team in a year. You never know. Right. Maybe they get an offer that they can't turn down and he's not there and it's CMB. Yeah. So, you have to take the best guy. But again, it seems to me like the Raptors, they have an eye for one type of talent and nothing else. And it is, I will say, good for them.
They were big Jonathan Mobo fans last year, 31st overall pick. And I'm a big Mobo guy. I talked to Eric Corrine yesterday. We talked to him on the live about like, hey, does this ruin Jonathan Mobo's playing time? I don't think that's the case. I also think like what Murray Boyles can do as an offensive player is much higher than what Jonathan Mobo can do. And the Raptors already last year succeeded with Barnes and Mobo lineups, especially defensively. So I think there's a world in which it works. It takes a lot of creativity on the offensive end, and truthfully, it puts a lot of pressure on Emmanuel Quickley, Grady Dick, Jacoby Walter, the other shooters, right? The Ochai Agbaji's of the world, to like space the floor and alleviate pressure offensively. I'm not sure if I really believe in that. I do think there's a trade coming in terms of what they might do to shift the team a little bit with RJ Barrett. Maybe that provides more floor spacing. Maybe that provides more of an offensive punch to allow some of these guys to play together. But their idea yesterday was like, Bobby Webster talked to the media yesterday. He's like, hey, we just saw OKC, play a bunch of guys that are going to be killers defensively. And we think this guy is the best defender in the draft. So if they believe that, roll with it. So,
I mean, also Cam Boozer is going to be really good next year. So maybe they get a shot at that number 1 pick.
Yeah. Hey, you only need a 1.8% chance. That's so, right. Roll with it.
Fourth lowest percentage that a team was able to get the number 1 draft pick, obviously speaking about Dallas. Now, I would be remiss to just skate over the fact that Colin Murray Boyles didn't look too excited to go to Toronto yesterday. Cotton HD being able to say an expletive and shaking his head when he found out he was going to Toronto, and then consoled by his South Carolina Gamecock partner, Chloe Kitts, saying it's okay. It's okay. So from what we're hearing, Colin Murray Boyles, if you're watching or listening to this podcast by chance, you'll be okay. Chloe was right.
By the way, probably never been to Toronto, right? Like
he has. He worked out for them.
He did.
Month.
Did he hang out? Right? I just feel like
they went for
Toronto's a great city.
Yeah.
Okay. First of all, time out. There's been a lot of overreaction to that video, as you guys can imagine, especially from a very insecure Raptors fan base, which is like is going to lean in on everything and say, "How dare you?" He has had to do a lot of PR. After this, he posted a picture of himself as a teenager in a Raptors shirt and said, expletive, dreams do come true. So like he's like leaning into the fact that he said it. He also said right afterwards that his reaction was more like shock that this happened than anything else. But yes, obviously a very funny moment where Raptors fans took it way overboard. I'm still having to deal with that today, but it is what it is.
Now that all said, there is a difference between being like F and F. Okay.
Right.
There's a difference. I'm just saying.
That's the point.
That is the point. There's a difference of how that translates, but
guys, he was surprised. What are we doing here?
Listen,
hey, the most important point from Nate here in the chat. Nobody's going to remember.
Absolutely. And that was going to be my point, Nate. We will literally not remember any of this once he gets with his teammates, and obviously is very excited to be in the NBA fulfilling his dream. All right, let's keep it moving. I wanted to ask you guys, when it comes to the future, I just heard us say Colin Murray Boyles could be a franchise player. We know the very first pick of this draft. Whoa, how am I possibly blanking on this? Dallas Mavericks draft Cooper Flagg. We've been saying this a million times. Cannot believe I just blanked on that. Cooper Flagg, we know, is a franchise player for Dallas, right? Mm-hmm. You're saying Colin Murray Boyles could be a franchise player. Are there any other picks in this draft that you saw that could become franchise players for their teams?
Wow.
I've heard a few different things. One that was interesting, I'd love to get you guys' take on this, but VJ Edgecombe for the 76ers. People talking about he could potentially be a franchise player for Philly, especially if they kind of, blow up everything else that's going on in Philly this offseason. But, again, rooted in someone that is just defensively skilled, incredibly athletic, and also has a unbelievable, unbreakable work ethic, which I think is always what you want to build a franchise around. But any players that stood out to you of like, we could be seeing this person for a very long time. They could become a face of their franchise again, outside of capture the flag.
Do you guys want to go first? I have a name.
Yeah.
Ooh.
The Washington Wizards drafted Trey Johnson, and he's already, I think, the best shooter in the draft, and he takes a lot of NBA shots already. I think him being under the tutelage of Chris Middleton and CJ McCollum is going to be perfect for him to figure out what it is to be like a professional scorer in the NBA. He has to work on finishing at the basket a little bit more and more efficiently, but generally I think that dude is like lights out. Like there will be games and stretches where we'll blink in 6 minutes and he has like 15 points. That's the type of shooter and scorer that he can be. So I would say Trey Johnson is a guy who can be a franchise player.
He can't defend right now.
No,
but he's got good size, right? Like think about Tyrese Halliburton is not the greatest defender, but he does a lot with his size that other guys can't do. So you can be hopeful there. I mean, that's always the biggest thing with these guards, right? You either got to, can you score 25 or can you score 22 and also stand up and guard?
Yeah.
And if he can guard it all, he's got a good shot.
I mean, as you just talked about the tutelage of CJ McCollum and Chris Middleton, he also has the tutelage of Marcus Smart. Being able to tell him how to, stay in front of folks and yell at him, really. And if you heard all of the pre-draft conversations around Trey Johnson, it was about him being a really great leader for his school at Texas. Like he was a person that as a freshman was kind of coordinating things out on the floor and letting folks know what they should be doing and where they should be. So I think that is very much characteristics of someone that could be the face of the franchise. Alex Sarr, though, I think he has some thoughts. No, not trying to push my Frenchman aside here.
No, and Bilal and your other Frenchman.
And Bilal Coulibaly. What are we doing here? What are we doing? All right, but I like Trey Johnson as a pick. Andrew, Dave, what do you guys think? Any franchise faces you see here?
I love the move to get Cedric Coward. I don't know if it's necessarily like a franchise player.
I'm curious to see what Dave has to say.
But how beautiful would it be if he became a franchise player?
It'd be cool.
What a story.
There's always somebody in this range that nobody thinks will become that guy, and they do.
He's a little bit of opposite Bane, too. So, like, he's like Bane with long arms.
He's long. He's long.
He fits that shooting need they need because Bane is now gone. Absolutely, yeah.
I like him as a guy that can kind of do it all, and if he's probably more likely to be a high level role player than he is like a franchise guy. But again, somebody in this range will become an all-star. Like that almost always happens, where people will reach a little bit or people fall in love with these guys in like the 5 to 9-ish range. And a lot of those guys are just like bust out of the league or they're just not very good. But in this, for whatever reason, this is the area of the draft, like Devin Booker, SGA, J-Dub, Kawhi, all these guys were drafted around this range, and somebody is going to pop in this range. And if I were to bet on somebody, it would be him.
He also had multiple. He had multiple workouts with OKC apparently, and the fact that Memphis jumped ahead of OKC,
right,
makes me think there's something there.
Memphis does this. Memphis trades up when they want a guy all the time. They traded up for Santi Aldama,
and they find some gems.
Jake LaRavia, right? So now look at the names.
Well, they're good at second round gems, actually. Now,
right? But they're trading up for guys like Jake LaRavia. Okay, so not to say that he can't be better than Jake LaRavia.
Who is no longer on the team, by the way.
Right.
They also, listen, Dave.
I think I'm thinking about Jalen Wells, which is
Williams.
They also traded for
That's right.
Zaire
Traded
Williams.
up for Zaire Williams. Thank you very much. Again, another. So it is what trading up for your guy. Love it. That's great. You're trying to win. You're trying to get the players that you think put you in a position to win. But how is your track record? It's not the greatest. That being said, he's gonna get a chance to play.
I like the Wells
young
Coward combo. You know,
every young guy has to. Right. Exactly. You got Jalen Wells. You got Coward.
I like Jalen Wells.
I mean, you know, your defense is gonna hold up maybe a little bit better. Again, that length is going to be huge for them on the perimeter. It's something that they lack. And he can shoot. He's got a great
he's got
shot.
a motor that matches Ja Morant. Like they'll be running. Like I think that's what Memphis did really well last year, especially in the beginning of the season. They were running. It was a track meet every time you're out there. And I think that he matches that very, very well. For those of you that don't know about Cedric Howard's story, like this guy went D3 because he felt he didn't deserve to go D1. He hadn't worked hard enough to go D1. Goes to Willamette, kills it as a D3 player, and you know, then gets the opportunity to go to Washington State. Only plays 6 games, gets hurt, then was going to transfer, go to Duke, then didn't want to go to Duke, and he went to the NBA draft. There is a chip on his shoulder of immense proportions. And I think that is a really great start for any sort of, any first rounder, but particularly someone.
Also, if you're going to do that, if you're going to play JUCO or you're going to go D3, the Pacific Northwest is a great place to do it, right? Nike's up there. You get near Portland. You're going to have a lot of basketball scouts, hoop summits up there. Good place to do that. Smart move.
I'm surprised.
It's a high IQ play.
Dylan Harper.
I think it's going to be tricky. I mean, what does he look like? I think like there's a world in which he's a great number 2 for Wemby, right? I mean, and he's definitely going to get a chance to develop there. It just feels so crowded right now. De'Aaron Fox is going to have a ton of touches. Stephen Castle, when he's out there, like he winds up finishing a lot of plays. So what does it look like for him? What does it look like for him just to start out? Like what is he going to play 15 minutes a game? That's tough for a guy who's a number 2 pick. Like normally they don't go to teams that are like the Spurs, and the Spurs haven't even done anything yet.
Yeah.
Right. He's ready to play physically.
Yeah. Like him being 6'6", I think you can pair him, like you could play him as a 3 really next to Castle or Fox in certain situations, in certain lineups. You probably want him to be.
What did we just watch in the playoffs, right? Like a lot of teams playing 3 guards. Jalen Williams at the 5 was, a huge part of the NBA Finals. So I do think that these guys being able to, and especially with Wemby, being able to go positionless is going to be a real thing for their guards, like where you just don't, he makes up for so much. Also, I'll tell you what else, the other guy I like for the Spurs, not to just jump off.
Oh my God.
Carter Bryant. It's like,
oh my God.
Oh yeah.
Like Brandon Clark on the wing, right? It's like high energy. They are going to have a really interesting defense next year.
My God.
A lot of activity, and obviously Victor Wembanyama. I really like that guy's tape. Again, I kept thinking about Brandon Clark.
That would be one of the longest defenses in the league.
Extra just bounce in his second and third jump.
He's so good. He's so good. I was mad. That was the guy I wanted the Raptors to take. It was Carter Bryant. But my God, it's such a perfect fit for the Spurs because he can shoot the lights out too. Like, I think he's a really talented floor spacer. Still needs to work off of moving off of movement, or shooting off of movement.
Sure.
But the catch and shoot stuff, standstill, very, very impressive. The Spurs need shooting, especially when you think of Dylan Harper, De'Aaron Fox, Steph Castle, not all, shooting guards, right? They're more downhill threats. Carter
he can
Bryant
play up at the 4 and he can stand in the corner for them, right? Like Mamu did for them last year a lot out there with Wemby. And I mean, his fit is perfect there. Yeah. And again, the high motor. I mean, OKC has got a blueprint, right? And it's not like anything that should shock anybody. But if you have guys who play hard, your team is better.
So there were like 4 or 5 different quotes last night saying, well, we saw how OKC won in the finals with their defense, and we just wanted a guy to bring in. You know, the Raptors said that, the Spurs said that, I believe it was who else was it that said that? The Hawks ended up saying that. Like, so many teams have cited OKC for sort of their draft strategy.
But that makes sense. It's a copycat league.
Yeah.
Everything that everyone's going to do in every single draft is going to be a reaction of whoever just won and what was positive in the, in that matchup, whether it's the winner or the runner up. Like, drafts and free agency moves are literally going to be, how do we knock off the last team that won, right?
Mm-hmm.
That makes a lot of sense. I wanted to ask you guys, I know we're closing up on time. We alluded to this at the very beginning. We haven't touched on them yet. The Suns. The good old Suns. They get common watch and at the number 10 spot.
Yep.
And I remember watching, so everyone keeps calling him come on. It's common. It's really common. That's how you would say it. But that's another day.
By the way, we need the pronunciation guide, Zena, because there's a lot of French guys in this draft. I need it.
But
so
I heard even Cooper Flag, like,
Johan Beringer,
Oh yeah, right. But I mean, I heard Cooper Flag call him "come on," so it's clear some players have just been like, "It is what it is." But come on, I love the story. I'm all about NBA Africa, being, getting someone on that level. It's really beautiful to see, like, the guys in NBA Africa, Basketball Africa League just happened. They're all watching and seeing, this is our path. Like, this is our opportunity. But now we got to think about the actual Suns. Okay. So how much, similar to Portland, how much more size do you need? And how do you guys think that Kaman is going to fit into what's going on with the Suns in terms of what they need? They needed shooting, particularly like more of a wing, less shooting guards, but they needed more of a wing, and they got an interior player. So what are your thoughts?
They need talent. They need talent. This was the most talented guy available there. I like him. I think he's going to be a pretty good NBA center.
Yeah.
For me, that's not the Malawat pick is not the confusing part. It's trading for Mark Williams.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What? Okay. So you traded for Nick Richards at the deadline.
Right.
I mean, how many picks is it now for Charlotte Hornets centers? I am so lost here as to why they made the trade for Mark Williams. They gave up. Where's the pick that they gave up? It was 2029. 2029.
Yeah. And it's the best of, it might be the best or the worst of, I can't remember, of Cleveland, Utah, and Minnesota. Yeah.
This is not a team that should be giving up any future draft capital. They're bad. They were bad last year with Kevin Durant on the team. And they made a trade that at least they didn't get better, but they probably got worse because they got worse players. And now they've made a decent draft pick just by luck, because it's the draft and you can only take what's there. But they've mucked it up by trading for a center who doesn't play defense and really doesn't play all that much, like kind of injury prone. Whenever you can do that, I guess, guys, you just have to do it, right?
Mm-hmm.
I would ask this question. How many wins is it worth to Phoenix to upgrade from Nick Richards to Mark Williams next season? How many wins is it give you?
-1.
Okay. So why would you do it?
I honestly don't think it's.
Go ahead and start Nick Richards. Like, if you don't think that Malawach is ready to play, fine. Like, I am of the mind that he's probably not ready to play NBA minutes right out the gate. Maybe he's the backup next year, and then maybe you slide him in as a starter in year 2 or 3. Cool.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you doing this? Because I don't think that it gets you anywhere closer to where you want to be, which is a playoff team in the West. Like, that's what they want to be. When you have Devin Booker on your team, you want to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
I don't think he's getting you there. So,
dude,
that's
also,
why would you give up an asset to do that?
This is a player that got
one of the few
trade rescinded for him. Like, literally someone saw his medicals and said, nope, never mind. I honestly, like, Mark Williams is a pretty good player, but the availability is an issue. And, like, if he's going to play, I don't know, 40 games for you a season and then you're splitting duties between Kaman Malawach, who is raw, by the way. I know he was great in Duke, but it was like the perfect environment for a guy to just operate and be that big in college, right? Yeah. I just don't know what the scenario is for the Suns team to be a playoff team next year. I don't see it. I think they're likely going to be a tanking team again, and they don't have their picks, so
the trade, you're absolutely right. I think the pick makes sense. Like, the number one thing that Kaman did at Duke was roll and finish and do it really explosively and easily. And that's exciting. He ran the floor as well, but as you mentioned, everyone has talked about him being very raw and being someone that has high upside, but there's a risk there. But if you develop him, awesome. That you cannot say the same thing for Mark Williams. Like, the product has been there. We've seen what he's capable of. Don't get me wrong, his career has been marred by injuries, but that actually should make you more hesitant about the upside, right? Even if you do get him in a situation in which he's getting developed, it's not going to be significantly different than what you saw in Charlotte. And also, you still need size on the wing. What are we doing? So the pick is like, fine, sure, if you want to think about the future of your guards with the big, awesome. There's a middle space that the NBA, the prototypes, everyone is killing it right here, in this space of the wing, and you don't have anyone there that can consistently play it offensively or defend it really well. I mean, yes, Dylan Brooks, sure, but yeah, I was very curious.
What's the starting lineup? Like, is it
that was going to be my question. Can you play Richards and Mark Williams together?
No,
are they going to start Oso?
No way.
No,
Ryan Dunn
way.
at the 4. I mean,
okay, so it's going to be Mark Williams,
but
Dylan
this is a
Brooks,
team that's
Jalen
not
Green.
tanking, right?
Yeah.
This is the thing. It's a team that's not tanking, and that's the thing that I cannot understand. Again, this was a win now trade for another bad team. What? Again, the dumb teams are back, guys. Andrew is right. Dumb teams. The Kings are dumb again, guys.
The Kings
We're
are
back.
again dumb. Oh my God, yeah.
Oh gosh.
Dumb teams are back.
Is that where we're gonna close this out tonight, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Dumb teams are back.
Dumb teams
Well,
are
guess
back.
what? Guess what? You can't quite put the bookend on it just yet, because there's still another round. There is still another round. The second round is tonight. So that award for dumb teams and the smartest teams, those awards are still out and pending after the second round. Make sure you guys tune in tonight. And we're going to have, our little post-game or post-draft show that'll come out tomorrow morning. But appreciate you guys jumping on for the NBA Daily Morning Shoot-Around, NBA Draft First Round Reactions. Appreciate everybody in the comments. Please go like, subscribe, share with your friends. Let people know we're telling you who the dumb teams in the league are. And we've got some potential GMs, by the way. NBA, you listening? I see some potential here with my guys around me. All right, guys, have a great Thursday. Enjoy the second round. We'll talk to you guys soon.